Shocktoberfest 2021, and I'm your host, Wildman Wes. Today is very special. It's day 27, and not only that, on a personal note, it is my brother's birthday today. So happy birthday to my brother, and I've got a special treat for all of you and for him. Even though this was not by special request, I did this out of the goodness of, my horror movie heart. Today I'm going to be reviewing a film that he introduced me to as a kid, and guess what, folks? It's an adaptation, but it's okay. Don't worry. This one's actually worth an adaptation. We're going to be talking about Neil Jordan's 1994 adaptation of Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire. Star-studded cast, interesting story. I mean, where do I begin? Oh yeah, how about we begin with the plot of the film? So the story takes place in San Francisco, where a young man named Daniel Malloy is interviewing another man named Louis, who claims to be a vampire. So while Dan's sitting there talking to Louis starts telling his story about 1871 down in Louisiana, New Orleans. We're talking, I think Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter took a page out of this one, but anyways. So Louis was a plantation owner in the 1870s back in Louisiana, and unfortunately his wife had passed away while she was pregnant with their unborn child. And Louis goes on a hell-bent mission to pretty much kill himself or just die a very slow and painful death by drinking and carousing and trying to get people to kill him. Well, a young man named Lestat decides he wants to help Louis in only one way possible, by turning him into a vampire. Now, at first, Louis is okay with becoming a vampire, but later on becomes resentful of what Lestat has done to him, because now he has to feed off the flesh of humans. Not very big on that, so the one way that he's going to drink blood and keep, sustained is by eating rats, poodles, chickens, the whole barnyard pretty much. Well, eventually, the plantation that Louis owns, the people working there start noticing things are not right. Chickens are dying off. There's a lot of, he doesn't leave his house or the mansion at all. And so the workers decide he's a heretic, so they're going to try to burn the mansion, the plantation house down. And Louis and Lestat flee to another part of Louisiana, and during this time, there's a plague where people are dying off left and right. Louis and Lestat meet a little girl named Claudia, and while she is pretty much on her deathbed, Louis bites her, and Lestat turns her into a vampire. Now, at first, Claudia is okay with this because she can live forever, and she looks to Louis more like a father figure, and Lestat she looks as more of a teacher. She is kind of the pupil learning how to become a vampire, learning the tricks and trades of a member of the night, and is, of course, also being spoiled by Lestat, which eventually Claudia has that oh-so-great moment, just like any child would have, whether female or male, puberty hitting. She realizes she can't grow up. She can grow in age. She can mature in age, just not in looks. And because she was turned into a vampire as a child, she loses her shit. And how does she get back at Lestat for this? Well, she feeds him some dead blood from some boys and pretty much slashes his throat. After this, Claudia suggests to Louis that they get the hell out of Louisiana and move across the sea to Europe. They land in Paris and meet two men. They meet Armand and Santiago, that are members of a vampire theater troupe. While Louis is learning some things about his life, or what's it like to be a vampire, Santiago is a little bit skeptical about Claudia and Louis because he can read minds, and he finds out that Louis and Claudia killed Lestat, and there's a big rule about vampires. One that's unforgivable. You can't kill your own kind. While living in Paris, Louis and Claudia meet a woman named Madeline, who Claudia likes to the degree of wanting to have a motherly figure, since Louis is kind of her father figure, and since she will never grow old in looks per se, she'll at least have something as a family unit. Well, Louis obliges her on this one, and the Parisian theater company of vampires come and abduct Claudia, Louis, and Madeline. They lock Madeline and Claudia in a tower where a sun comes down and burns them to death. Louis is basically bricked into a spot in the wall. Armand saves him even though he let the murders of Claudia and Madeline happen. Louis loses his shit, kills the theater of vampires, burns the theater to the ground, leaves Armand, and goes back to America around the 1980s, roughly 1988, where he sees a very dried up and decrepit Lestat, who is just beside himself and lonely and just miserable. Lestat pretty much wants Louis to stay, but Louis is like, no, you've done too much to me, and Claudia's dead, and I can't trust you with everything you've done and everything I've learned. And as that point happens, the next few years he also sees the world. He's able to handle sunlight here and there, or actually he sees sunlight for the first time in years through a movie. And that's pretty heartbreaking in a way, because it's almost as if he, most of his life passed him by and wasn't able to get it back. Well, at the end of this interview with Daniel Malloy, Dan's a little bit perturbed and says, hey, that's it? No, there's got to be more. You've got to show me what's going on. Louis loses his shit again, exposes his fangs, yells at him, and then leaves. Well, Dan leaves the building that he was interviewing Louis in to get his research to the office, and he's sitting there driving in his car, thinking to himself, wow, this has just been an interesting situation. And Lestat is in the back seat and bites him and takes over the car, and for all we know, turns Daniel into a vampire as they drive away. That's pretty much the plot of Interview with the Vampire. There's a lot of other things that I left out, because this movie is really good, and if you haven't seen it, you need to go see it. This is one of those movies that it's not just worth watching during October around Halloween. This is a movie you can watch any time of the year, to be honest. Now it's time to talk about what I like and what I don't like about the film. What I don't like about the film... nothing. There's nothing I don't like. I love everything about this film. You know what? I'm gonna be biased again. I love the story. I love this brooding situation of just lament of having to live forever and trying to find peace of mind through the Valley of the Undead. I enjoy the fact that there are other characters that don't embrace the same ideals and thoughts as main vampires like Lestat. I mean, in Anne Rice's works, Lestat is pretty much like he's the who's who among the vampires. I mean, let's put it this way, in a fight between Edward from Twilight and Lestat, I'd have my chips on Lestat every day of the week, twice on Sunday, because Lestat does not sparkle, he rips people's throats out. That's what he does, folks. Of course, when we talk about things I like, especially with a movie like this, we have to talk about the cast. As I mentioned before earlier, it's star-studded. We have Brad Pitt, we have Tom Cruise, we have Kirsten Dunst, we have Christian Slater, Antonio Banderas, we have Stephen Ray, and just a score of other smaller parts in this movie that just everybody puts their effort into this and makes it quite a experience. I mean, that's the best way I could say it right now, but I mean, it's just... there are moments that you're going to laugh. There are moments that you're going to cry. There are going to be moments that you're on the edge of your seat. Just like, you feel for these characters. You really do. Me personally, when I say that I laugh, it's always when Brad Pitt as Louis is eating poodles and chickens and rats, especially when he eats this widow's poodle. It's just the way how Lestat reacts to it. He's like, fine, you don't want to eat humans? Fine, do what you're gonna do. Just eat your rats, chickens, poodles. I have a feeling that Tom Cruise was breaking character while he was saying that line in the film, because it's just, you could tell, it's just the delivery. He was losing it just a little bit. Alright, now it's just time to grade this movie, because I mean, I could go on and on about certain moments that I like about the film, but honestly, if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go do it. Do it now. Do it! Watch it. It's out there. I'm going to give this one... I'll give it a solid A. To be fair.
To be fair.
To be fair.
Well, to be fair.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's the perfect movie, but it's damn near close. That's all I'm going to say about that one. Well, we hope you enjoyed this review. Make sure you leave a thumbs up or leave a thumbs down if you didn't agree with some of the opinions I had for this review. Also, make sure that you share on social media, but most importantly, push that little red button. And don't forget to ring the bell for instant notifications on Dragonfire Entertainment. Well, we're on the home stretch, ladies and gentlemen. 4 more movies left. It's crazy, isn't it? Well, it's going to get crazier. And we hope to see you tomorrow for day 28 of Shocktoberfest 2021. Stay tuned, and as always, stay scared.